billions of us are already omnichannel. Most humans are omnichannel. We're all using different messaging apps and phone and mixing them up when we talk to our friends. And then when we start to sort of interact with brands, there's just this big disconnect in terms of how that feels, right? We're being forced to do things that don't feel natural to us, given what we're doing in our everyday lives. So omnichannel is already a thing. It's where the brands can keep up with the expectation that we humans and consumers already have. So that's really the challenge as we see it today.
All right, Seb, I know you have partnered with H&M to integrate virtual assistants and live chat into a number of Google products. I'm sure there's things about this that I'm leaving out. So maybe you can kind of talk us through that that case study and help us understand the big ways that Nuance is kind of stepping in and sort of helping with those.
Yeah, so I mean, all of this, disconnect between consumers and brands, it's really at its root leads to frustration, and in the end, that's really disloyalty is one of the biggest things that comes from that. So starting at the value end rather than the technology end, it's really if we solve problems for users, and the major one is take away their effort, which they really begrudge having to donate to you, to interact with you, they'll be more loyal to you, and that's revenue in the end, right? That's driving growth for your business. That's very straightforward. So in simplest terms, what we're doing at Nuance is helping brands identify and resolve those points of friction within their customer experience, right? And help them contextualize that from the customer's perspective. A little more tangibly, this has to translate to experience, revenue, and cost upsides, right? So it's really about delivering real results that are measurable for brands. So retailers actually, becoming more efficient or being able to drive, more revenues through the existing interactions they're already having with their consumers. And in order to do that, we look to drive considerably improved digital experiences, using conversational technologies. So the more easy to use, the more natural conversational experience we can drive, and making those, in the spirit of omnichannel, available where your consumers already are and what they're used to using. So putting the experience in the path of the consumer, not forcing them to go somewhere else for it. So some examples of that, very tangibly today, doing a lot of work in messaging with messaging apps. So driving, more conversational experiences through those messaging channels with even more self-service. So consumers can use messaging 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, rather than waiting for you to be open. But ensuring, of course, that it's not all self-service. Consumers also need to get human occasionally, and they need to be able to do that seamlessly. So it's building a bridge really between those automated AI-driven chatbot or virtual assistant type experiences, and then getting to a store assistant, someone with some real knowledge who can help when needed. More recently, to get onto the Google piece, and this is where it got really exciting, we've integrated the same conversational experience within Google's business messaging offering. And for those of you who don't know maybe what that is, that's Google opening up their maps and search tool sets. So anytime you're in Google Maps and you're searching for a location like an H&M store in this case, you basically, when you get the store card up, it's offering you a messaging option there. And so that can take you to the virtual assistant and or a human store assistant, just straight from the location-based search. And so that's really interesting from the pre-trip planning perspective, right? So, the first thing, they have huge market share, Google. So the first thing you're really going to go do is go to Google Maps and find a local store. And so if you do that now and anywhere in the continental US, it'll present you with an H&M store and a messaging option. And that overlay will take you straight to that virtual assistant. And in the last sort of 12 months or sort of 8, 9 months, it's been around. Obviously, we've been in some interesting times. A lot of people asking questions about, can I come to the store? What are the rules during the pandemic for me going there? And there's a lot of questions that otherwise wouldn't have been dealt with in the right point in the journey, or you'd have been forcing people to go to your website in a different context and ask differently, right? So it's been tremendously useful, even for the simple questions coming from COVID. Start to see people say, hey, I'm lost and I'm wondering which aisle a product might be on. Can you help me find it, right? So they're clearly somewhere, we don't have the context necessarily to know where they are or yet to answer it. But it's starting to make us think, well, how can we both help, answer those kinds of questions, like figure out, using location, back to the sort of maps example. I know which store you're now in because you were asking for it earlier, but then actually deepen the information, like where is product, for example? How can I get you there?
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for all the great responses today, Seb.
Pleasure.